Hey everyone, this is Rachel here from the Shades of Orange. Today I want to film a bit of a review and recommendation for a book I recently finished, and that was The Outlander by Gabaldon. I think a lot of you will be familiar with this, but if you aren't, this is primarily a historical fiction novel, although it does have elements of romance and just a touch of time travel. Just to tell you the brief synopsis of the story, I'll just let you know kind of where it starts. This story is about a young woman named Claire who goes to Scotland for a second honeymoon with her husband Frank after World War II. They were previously separated during the war. He was, I believe, an officer and she was an army nurse. And so now that the war is over, they went to Scotland where they were first married to kind of reacquaint themselves because they had been separated for so long. And during their second honeymoon, due to some mysterious events which happened right at the beginning of the story, so I'm really not spoiling anything, Claire is mysteriously sent back in time to the 1700s right before the Second Scottish Revolution. And with that, she has to cope with being thrown into this other time and attempt to fit in and survive and just to kind of blend into that time period. Of course, she meets a band of Scottish men, and one in particular that she becomes quite close with, and the story really takes off from there. I don't want to say too much. Everything I mentioned happens probably within the first 50-some pages. Now, I gave this a 4-star rating on Goodreads. I really enjoyed this one, but it wasn't quite perfect. What held me back from giving it a full 5 stars was just the fact that at times I felt that Claire, who had been ripped from her life and just torn away and thrown into this other life, was perhaps she forgot, and moved on a little too quickly for my taste. I know this is other people's complaint, and I'm just kind of nitpicking. For me, it lost a little bit of plausibility that things seemed to happen a little too quickly. Obviously, there was so much story to fit in that Gabaldon kind of has time pass quicker than you might realize. I'd be reading chapters and they say, well, 5 weeks had passed, this much time had passed. And I didn't realize how quickly time was moving on. So I think that was kind of the case, that I felt like it was happening quickly when in fact the situations were taking place over a long period of time. But other than that, I don't want to nitpick. For the most part, I absolutely enjoyed this one. It's one of those stories that you describe as just not one to put down, and I would purposely find myself carving out periods of time to read an extra chapter or two when I otherwise probably would have felt I was too busy, but I really ended up prioritizing this book over other activities and just got so absorbed in the story. I don't know very much about the time period in Scotland, but I have been told from other people that Gabaldon did quite a bit of research, and it is extremely historically accurate, which I really appreciate. I feel like if you're going to write historical fiction, then you should know what you're talking about, and I really appreciate that. And at the same time, I should mention that Gabaldon does not sugarcoat the time period or the place or the people in it. This, at times, is a book that gets criticized because it deals with a lot of sexual violence and torture and a lot of really uncomfortable material that really some people will find objectionable. And if you look at the 1-star ratings on Goodreads, if you're curious to know more, they'll go into a lot more detail about why people dislike this book. I'll leave it up to you to decide if you're a reader who would get uncomfortable with, like I said, some kind of morally questionable behavior in the story that is at times difficult to read, but at the same time is very realistic to how a situation might go in that time period. And I don't want to say too much just for the sake of spoilers. Again, if you're curious, feel free to message me privately. I don't want to put spoilers in the comment section of the video, but I'm happy to go into more details if you have concerns about the specific content in this book. Otherwise, I just want to say how much I enjoyed this one again. I am very excited to say that it's part of a larger series, and it's just one of those books where I can really get lost in the characters, who are fantastic. I fell in love with Claire and Jamie just like everyone else, and I can't wait to see where the story takes them next, and look forward to having book after book to read. I believe we're now up to book 8, which just came out this year, and I believe there's at least one more after that. So I'm really looking forward to having a series with so much depth and complexity, and just to get carried away. One more thing I mean to mention is just a heads up that this book does involve quite a bit of adult content. I wouldn't recommend this book to anyone who is uncomfortable reading sex scenes. It definitely is more sexual content than I'm used to reading in a book. So for me, I was quite surprised by how much romping was going on. So just a heads up to that there is quite a bit of it. It made me at first want to describe this book as a bit of a guilty pleasure just because of my own unfamiliarity with reading so much of that. At times I also felt that things perhaps were a little too easy and perfect, and the chemistry between the two said characters just kind of worked out perhaps a little too easily in the bedroom, but that's just my personal thoughts. I would recommend this book to fans of historical fiction and romance who enjoy a story of epic proportions with great characterizations, world building, and just a fantastic, enthralling story. Hope you guys pick this up. If you've read it already, please share your gushing thoughts down below. And if you haven't, feel free to ask questions. I know there's a TV show coming out quite soon on the Starz network that is going to be an adaptation of this series, which I'm really looking forward to checking out. Hopefully it's quite good. I think it's going to be on Showcase in Canada. So that's about it for me. Hope you're having a good one. Okay, goodbye.